The first Hermetic principle states, all is mind, like Buddhism that interprets everything in the world as the manifestation of our mind. That mind is everything, and what we think, we become. Mind equals reality, equals impermanence, equals eternity, which means that a transcendence isn't a place or state of being somewhere else, but is always the here and now. In other words, eternity is in the living moment, a moment that passes into another moment, and so on. This concept creates a paradox. How can eternity be in the living moment? If it is eternity, it is all-encompassing, not merely captured in a fleeting moment. As our channel's name states, there are no paradoxes. However, that in itself is also a half-truth. There are paradoxes, and no paradoxes at the same time, which is itself a paradox. If reality is created by us in our mind, only moment to moment, only living and existing in a single moment, then controlling the mind would control reality. And if you stop and take an eternal moment to look around at our world, one might see the attempt to control your mind in every nook and crevice there is, making one wonder, is it true? Modern-day viewing of the mind through neuroscience and scientific lenses tends to break down the mind to its mere mechanical processes. When we look at an apple, science explains that light rays enter our eyes through our corneas, meeting the photoreceptor cells of the retinas. When this happens, electrical impulses that convey optical information trigger the brain, where it is processed. The subjective experience of this is a mental hologram of an apple, and this is how we see, and how our mind allows us to see visually. Mental holograms can also represent sounds, smells, tastes, and physical sensations, events, dreams, etc. We can arouse emotions within us from mental holograms and thoughts. Our mechanical system will release hormones to other parts of the brain. While studying the brain activity in both the novice and experienced meditators, they can see the neuroplasticity of the brain and how it can forge new neural pathways that make it easier to generate concentration and positive emotions. Now, in terms of living in the moment, this is what Buddhism would consider the mind, the activity of being in awareness of the living moment, accompanied by various mental factors within that moment. It would teach you that we are not victims and that we can take control of the living moment by how we react and interpret it and interact with the 3D world in that moment. Thus, we can change or alter our role in how and what we experience in our life. If we train our minds, we can radically change our experiences for the better, and if we become adept at this, the change will become effortless. This brand of mentalism and living in the moment is a very passive one and contradicts the everything is mind concept that Buddhism attributes. If everything is mind, then passivity in one's mental action and interaction with the world, merely trying to transform experience into a harmonious or positive experience rather than trying to manipulate the mind and reality. Hermeticism takes this concept a bit further. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The universe or reality is merely a very high-resolution mental projection from God, the universal consciousness, whatever it is that you believe in that is the source, the one source for this mental projection. In this projection, you also have the power of thought and consciousness, like a fragment, the one broken off into the many pieces, and thus you have the ability to not only transmute your thoughts and experiences into positive ones, but you can manifest people, events, things into this supposed reality with this power. We may not only interpret things differently like the Buddhist ways, but we can alter it and shape it into the life that we desire with our will. All of us have a myriad of thoughts that enter our brains. Some of us dwell on some types or forms of thoughts more than the others. Some of us have a cacophony of thoughts, unable to have a coherent narrative, or voice. Some have very few thoughts outside of do this, do that. But all of these thoughts lead us to actions or inactions, to creation or destruction, which are, of course, two sides of the same coin. Some thought or chain of thoughts or impulses lead you to this video, to watch this video, and while watching it, your thoughts will be influenced by it, whether positive or negative, neutral or dismissive. It will create some reaction in you. If you are not in control of your thoughts and aware of your mind's ways and reactions in the living moment, you'll be more likely to be either influenced by this video or more likely by the biases and conditioning and programming you have allowed your mind to be shaped by and shaped by others. As above, so below, so above, as below. What we hold in our thoughts and mind become our reality. The planes of existence all follow the same laws and are merely different vibrations or vibes. What can occur at the highest level must also be able to occur down in the mundane world and our lower plane. The law of correspondence speaks to the symbols and meanings that seem to permeate all cultures and minds. The Jungian archetypes would fall into this category. That all things have some correspondence to something else, higher and lower levels of existence. When we understand how we interact with our world, we can recognize and break patterns and live in alignment with our greater good or harmonizing with our desire or will. Correspondences can help in both identifying patterns, but when one begins to gain knowledge and mental control, one can harness this knowledge to their own benefit, both in outward influence of others and within their own self and beliefs. It can help imprint itself on the subconscious, which is the below, which runs the show like an operating system that is changed and altered with the conscious mind and outside influences. Learning to shed influences and input the types of influences one desires is what begins to transform one's own life from merely interacting and taking the place of a victim of circumstances to altering their circumstances and mentality to that of one's own will. This taking control is taking control of our vibe. The energy we give off resonates in others around us, and possibly with physical reality as well. We all know people who have a chill vibe, and those whose vibe is off, and we can see with our own eyes how it affects each of these two paths and interactions with others and the world around them. One of them flows, while the other one throws. Being able to take control of our vibe, especially in circumstances that would be counter to a chill vibe, would give the adept a great advantage over others in life. Not only will they navigate the transgressions or negative circumstances easier, like going with the current rather than fighting against it, but it also gives the adept a healthier mental state during said trying times. The inability to control one's vibe can cause a myriad of mental states and injuries that can do accumulate over time. Building on negative reactions and experiences will create a negative path, and vice versa. The law of polarity states that everything is dual, and everything has its pair of opposites. This idea illustrates that we have a choice in how we react and interact or not interact with the world and our own mind. And even in our own mind, there is a duality, a conscious observer and interpreter, an inputter, and the subconscious that feeds us back that which we have allowed in, creating loops and cycles. Learning how to use this and manipulate polarity becomes a great power if one can learn to control oneself and remove themselves from the rhythm of the swinging pendulum of polarity. With cause and effect, one can then step out of rhythm and decide whether to be the cause or be the effect of things happening in the world around us. Rather than reacting to circumstances and being trapped by the thoughts and mental triggers that being a being that considers themselves either a passive participant or a victim of being lucky or unlucky events and circumstances. Taking action can give us effects we want, but also can lead to unseen circumstances. So often this one attribute of life cannot be done without firstly being able to center oneself in the middle and become the player rather than the played. Now, of course, it's easy to know all this, and it can all seem very wise and true. But how does one remove themselves from polarity and mental anguish? How does one become not a victim, but one who holds the magic wand, manipulating things and events for his desire? The answer, again, is part of the duality of this existence. One must be detached from the result of gaining that which he desires. I remember when I was studying Buddhism in my younger days and also watching things like Star Wars where they talked about attachment and the downfall of having them. And I for a long time took it to mean erasing desire. What I have since learned is that 1, you cannot remove desire from a human. Even psychopaths have desires. But one can remove the attachment to attaining it. And the trick of this duality, or paradox, is a bit of a leap of faith. Wait, no, not a bit of one. It's a gigantic one. For one must imprint on the subconscious that what is desired is already in your possession, that you have already attained it, and to do this one must walk the line of becoming delusional, and the fear of becoming insane can take hold of oneself, especially if one has not learned to center oneself and learn to exist in the middle before attempting to manipulate events and things to gain them for your desire. For where this realm exists is the line between magic and psychology. Just how much of reality is mental? How much can be changed by our mind? How much of our own life can we alter just by taking control of our thoughts? And this control, this desire to control one's temple, one's mind, is what keeps you from stepping over the line of insanity and delusion. For controlling one's thoughts and mind is not a reckless thing. It's quite the opposite. We see what kind of society reckless minds that are manipulated by powers that desire to control them or distract them can be. If we look around at our modern existence, we see the war on our minds everywhere. Social media, traditional media, live events, work, social norms, schools, systems, etc., all there to occupy or preoccupy our minds, to shape it to fit a mold of one who succumbs to impulses and contrived desires. There is little in this world that attempts to give the truth and power to individuals, to teach them how to control one's mind and thoughts. Even religion keeps it hidden, knowing that those who know how to control their minds hold a power that they cannot let the masses have. And it makes one wonder what the living moment would be like if we were all magicians. Okay, what do you think? Do you think the world is all mind, or is it only the mental portion that one can say about this? Can we really change reality? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video. It really helps out a small channel like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.